Yeah.
Hello everyone, welcome to our day 2 of our virtual workshop, and this session should be roughly around an hour, and it is based on improving safety culture with technology. So basically the theme is, it's vital to have firstly a health and safety culture that will benefit all levels of the organization, from your frontline staff to your senior management team and directors and even board. And what we're going to explore today is how technology can help with that culture, improving that safety culture within an organisation. So with us today, we have Declan from McAleer Rushe and Elliott from McAleer Rushe. So we'll get the guys to test out their speakers and make sure all that's working, all the technology is good, and they'll give a quick bio on themselves. So over to you guys.
Thanks, Billy. Declan McElligott, I'm Director of SHEQ at McAleer Rushe. We're a Northern Ireland-based construction company, now turning over just short of £400 million a year. 2 sites in Dublin, 1 in Belfast, and the rest across England and Scotland. So we've worked with effective software for say 4 or 5, 6 years now at this stage, and things are going really well, and we're very happy to get involved in this improving safety culture with technology talk. As I'm director at the company, responsible for SHEQ, and we have 35 staff in the department, and Elliott would be my right-hand woman. She's just going to help us get through this talk here as well. So, Kerry, I'll hand it over to yourself.
Hi there, everybody. My name's Elliott, and I've been with McAleer Rushe for just over 2.5 years now. Joined in April 2018 as a regional health and safety manager for Scotland and Northern England. My first day with the company, I met with Declan, and he informed me that Northern England stretches down to Wembley. So it is quite a large geographical area, and we have 2 sites in Scotland, and then the next one down is Manchester. So Northern England is definitely a big old area to cover. Prior to that, I was with HSE, working up in Edinburgh for almost 10 years. Worked in the construction division there, and that's where I first met Declan through a interaction with McAleer Rushe, which ended favourably in McAleer Rushe's favour. And so a couple of years later, when I was looking to move on, I made contact with Declan there. So that's who I am, and I work extensively with Engage on a daily basis, both on the app-based version of and the web-based. So quite a wide experience.
That's brilliant. Yeah, and again, thank you both for your time today, joining us on this session. It's always great to get customers to come on and talk about their experience, and it's something that we've always done with the event when we would typically meet face to face, but during these COVID times, everything now has gone virtual. So just for anybody who may not know me, my name is Billy McElligott, Customer Success Director here at Engage EHS and co-founder. My background is in environmental health and safety management as well, and that's one of the reasons why I suppose I got involved and with my business partners to set up Engage EHS, and just looking at ways that we could improve how health and safety people and companies can do their work. So just before we go on to the session, I just want to run through very quickly some of the housekeeping items that we need to cover just on the platform itself. So firstly, on the right-hand side, you should see a chat function. So if you want to just give a shout out there and just let people know where you are, who you are, that would be great. And even what the weather is like today. It's sunny here in Dublin at the moment, which is good. It's a nice change. And I believe the sun is shining there in Belfast as well, Declan. I don't know about Scotland though. What's it like in Edinburgh? What's it like in Edinburgh today?
Oh, lovely. I'm not in Edinburgh, but an hour south of Edinburgh. But it's lovely through the window. It's freezing outside.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, and it's nice to have a bit of sun. Other features on the platform itself are the Q&A piece. So any questions you want to throw at the guys or myself, please put them in there in the Q&A, and we will try to get to as many of them as possible. If we don't, we will try to get back to you on email as well. There's also polls that we may run throughout the session, and then hopefully we'll have time at the end to run through the poll results and any outstanding questions as well. On this session as well, and all our sessions over the 2 days, we're raising money for two very worthy charities, the EHS Trust in the UK and St James's Hospital here in Ireland, in Dublin. And I think if you guys can donate, it would be fantastic, especially now with these COVID times. Any help to those charities would be absolutely fantastic, and we really appreciate that on their behalf. Okay, well, listen, without further ado, let us get into the session. Okay, so we're talking about technology and how it can help improve safety culture within an organization. So I suppose one of the first things that maybe comes to mind is, what are the barriers to software adoption? So I'm just after coming from an adoption, a workshop session with customers on adopting software or systems. And it was interesting, some of the feedback that we were getting on that session. And we had some customers talking about their experiences. So I suppose, with yourselves, in McAleer, you guys have seen the system, well, you're first going from paper-based Excel, to adopting the software, and you've seen that transition over the last few years of changes even on the software. So how has that adoption gone for you guys? I suppose, Declan, like, you were there at the start. So what can you remember back that far to those early days, and what was that first conversation like with the guys on the ground, using a smartphone or laptop instead of a piece of paper?
Yeah, like there's a few conversations, like, on a few different levels. Like, you're having to talk to the lads on the ground, the girls on the ground, and trying to get them to use it and trying to get them behind the system, like, and if you look at our progression through this, say from 10 years ago, whenever I first came in the scene with McAleer Rushe, we brought the system in, the health and safety management system. It's the same sort of thing. You've got buyers straight away because people don't like change. Mm-hmm. And you're trying to basically bring in a system that they've never used before. You're trying to get a bit of traction on their wheels, trying to get them to start to use the system. Then you move across, and it's sort of plateauing. And that's at the stage where we were saying, like, we should be doing something different. We could be doing something with hazard spotting, and that's when we spoke to Engage EHS and said, look, this is what we need to do. So you're trying to, on one level, trying to get the boys at board level, say this is going to be a good thing, and talk about the cost. But then on site level, once you've got the barrier opened about the cost, then you're facing a new barrier to try and get everybody to use it. Mm-hmm. So it's a case of, like, saying it's going to be a good thing, it's not a bad thing, and trying to make it a positive experience for them. And the better that the app works and all the rest, then it just takes off then, and then they can see that their actions are being reduced and they're doing a good thing by using Engage. So, like, there are barriers, there's plenty of barriers, and it's not a case of it's going to happen overnight. You need to be involved in it maybe a year or 2 years and saying keep going and keep at it, because it's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. Like, you have to have that perseverance and consistency as well of feedback and communication and so on with everybody, with all the stakeholders. And you mentioned, once you get over the initial barrier of the cost, when you're talking to your financial people and the board, that it is a cost on the bottom line, but it is ultimately going to lead to cost savings, and it's how you make that business case, I suppose, for it. And then once you get it in, it's making sure it gets utilized so you can see that cost benefit, very quickly.
There's unforeseen business advantages, because it's a couple of years down the line since we took on Engage, and it's basically, there were barriers at the start. Cost wise, there's barriers to getting it used on site. But then now, if you look back, the hazard spotting has gone through the roof. The audits are being marked and all the rest, and there's KPIs are there. We can use that, to reduce the AFR, the AIR. We won 6 awards last year. We can go to new clients with these stats, armed with these stats, carry the brochure that we put together for the corporate brochure. It just it looked fantastic. It read so well, and a lot of that had to do with the use of Engage. And it's basically, our clients, our new clients, are looking at that going, this is a good company, and we should be serious about using them. And now you've seen there, we picked up £350 million worth of work since March in COVID times, as you were talking about, Billy. So this is only a good thing to be using this.
Wow. Okay. And I know you're not saying that utilizing our software is directly leading, or it's not the only factor. Like, there's other factors within the business that are getting you guys that work, obviously. But you believe very strongly that the software and utilizing the software is a key factor in winning that new business.
Totally. Obviously, there's obviously commercial restraints and all that sort of stuff, and our competitive edge and our reputation for delivering on time and delivering the program, delivering a quality product, and all that goes with it. But the key focus now with the bigger clients that we're going after blue chip clients, and they're focused, the stuff that we're being asked now at this stage in some tenders is stuff that we've never been asked before, but we have the evidence there through the stats and the KPIs and the AFR and the AR. So it's a great thing. Before we used this system and the software, it would have been all paper-based, and we would have been sticking our finger in the air saying, I think this is how it's going to work, or this is how it's working. So now we have it all down on this software. It's fantastic.
Brilliant. And I suppose, coming from your background, Kerry, working with the HSE as an inspector, that's probably something that you kind of see on your side then, from that previous role, that when you go into an organization, like Declan was saying, that when you're tendering for new business, being able to show proof of, a management system that's working, that you can show, here's how we're managing things. And that's something that HSE inspectors are looking for when they go into a business as well. Show me the evidence that you're managing your health and safety.
Yeah, just to go back a little bit to what Declan was saying a minute ago about people being resistant to change. They are, and especially a lot of the guys on site that have worked on site for many, many years and are used to doing things in a certain way. And I think a way to get them on board with Engage is, the system does a huge amount of things, but they only need to know about a small part of it. So not to overwhelm them, teach them about the hazard spotting. And I would say about 98% of them are on board with it now. I know of one project site manager who still will write down his hazard spots and then give them to somebody else to put on the app, because he just can't do it. And I don't think there's any way we're going to get around that now. We just have to accept it. But I think the key part is not to overwhelm them and just teach them and educate them about the parts of the system that they need to know. But so go back to the HSE thing. Yeah, you're right. You go onto site following an accident, or even just for a site inspection, and there are certain pieces of paperwork you will look to see. If there's been an accident, you'll want to see that an investigation has been carried out, and first impressions really do count. And if an organisation can produce a report, as we can with your system, that has all the attachments on it, if we can produce that at the first time of asking without having to root through files and sort of get back to them in a couple of weeks' time, and we've had a chance to talk to Billy and Joe, and who might have seen the accident happen, it makes the organisation look slick and professional, and that that it is being well managed. And I think that's it's as an HSE inspector, if they get the information that they're looking for at the first time of asking, it will reduce the chance that they're going to come back time and time again looking for that information again.
Yeah, and it also reduces the stress levels, I suppose, for the site manager as well. That, you know, if you have a system that you can easily access information, you know, you're not as stressed about that visit, you know, especially if it's a routine visit.
Yeah, I mean, and we've supplemented sort of all the engaged sort of the accident investigation with our own health and safety procedure, which lays out exactly, you know, spells out to the health and safety officers on site about exactly what information needs to be uploaded. So, you know, theoretically speaking, you should be able to go to a site in Glasgow, a site in Manchester, one across in Dublin, and every accident should have the same format.
Yeah.
You know, it's greatly helped by the fact that the system is tailored to suit that.
Brilliant. And just on the point that you made there as well about, you know, keeping it, you know, setting up the system tailored to the individual that's going to be using it. So if it's, you know, the guy that's driving the loading shovel or the teleporter or, you know, a bricklayer, that, you know, they're only going to be really just reporting stuff like an observation or maybe an incident, that the system and the access that you give them on the system is set up that way that they're not overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And also as well, your communication, how you talk to them about the system, you know, again, it's tailored to that level of access, because they don't need or don't want to be overwhelmed by, you know, maybe a bigger system.
Yeah, I mean, certainly when somebody joins the organisation, goes to site, they will be given access for that site only, and they will just be given access to report and close out actions. You know, project managers can come and say, right, well, I need access to sites A, B, and C, and they can be given access to all 3 sites. As a admin and super user, I have access to them all, and it sort of helps that, you know, you can compare one site with the other, you can compare, you know, half a dozen sites, or you can just run a report to have an overview of the whole company. So, you know, it is a little bit of, you know, you just have to play with the system a little bit to see what it can do, and I think I'm still learning now, but you know, you just need to drip feed people what they need to do and make sure that you don't overwhelm them, because I think that's when you get resistance, if you give people too many things to learn.
Yeah, exactly. So in terms then of the technology itself and how that leads to the improvements, so is there any you know, particular things that you guys can identify, you know, that have led to those improvements in the safety culture and safety performance, you know, from utilizing the software or an element of the software?
Look, if anybody's seen me talking to yourselves before, it comes back to the hazard spotting, Billy. That's been the biggest, most significant addition and advantage to McAleer Rushe using this. So it's a case of previously the Think Smart system, they had to do a hazard spot every day, but it was a handwritten effort, you know, and it was nobody was analysing. They were coming back to Cookstown, the head office, like in their hundreds, but we didn't have the time to look at them to see what was going wrong. We couldn't slice up the data, find out what, like if there was an issue with temporary works, if there was an issue with falls at height or work at height or leading edges or slip strips, falls, excavations. We couldn't work that out. We didn't have the time to look at it. Now this does it for us. It's broken up into categories. As I say, like, you know, some people that I spoke to in the past for yourselves and engaged had said, like, you know, 3,000, 3,500 hazard spots a month. That's what sort of culture they have. Well, I'll take it back the other way. It's 3,500 potential accidents that have been stopped. And so we came back there after a temporary shutdown. We closed for about 5 or 6 weeks because of COVID, but then we had to quickly ramp back up again. And there was an increase in accidents because people were using COVID as an excuse. Now we've said, like, you know, this needs to stop. We need to get back to where we were back in 2019, where the AFR and the AIR were so low. With awards and all the rest. We had a great year last year. We can do it, but people were using COVID as an excuse. So we said, look, we need to get back to where we were. So I said, like, the only line I want to see going up is the hazard spotting line. And on the hazard spotting graph, the line on the hazard spotting graph goes up, the line on the AFR and the AIR starts coming down. So that's the biggest thing for us, for our culture. That was the biggest thing. You know, it's a no-brainer not to use it. Like.
Yeah, and like, if you were asked, just that one particular area of the business, or maybe, that you mentioned that prevention of incidents, having those hazard spots. What about, like, is there anything that you could say, this activity has been changed because of that, or because of using the software? Is there, can you drill down that deep into an activity or a process, or is there?
Kerry, you may know better than me. Maybe exclusion zones, restricted areas and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we do monthly scored audits as well on all sites, and sometimes with a focus on particular things, and as well the audits as well. They give as most of the applications, they give you a chance to raise an action immediately. So I think that's hugely beneficial, because then you can see something, you can raise that action to the person that deals with it, and you can get acknowledgement that that's been closed out. I think one of the things that has happened for us, and we've tried to use a lot of the data that we get from effective software and maybe put a little bit of a healthy competitiveness between sites. We have a hazard spotting prize, which we award on a monthly basis for the best quality hazard spot, and those are nominated by the project managers normally, and those are for people who aren't just writing that they've seen a cable on the floor, but that are really hazard spotting, and that sends people out with the purpose to really look and try and get a decent quality hazard. Now the prize is not fantastic. It's not about getting the £20 voucher that they get for winning the hazard spotted prize. It's more the kudos, and it is quite a bit of friendly rivalry between people to see who can get the hazard spotting prize. Similarly, audit scores, hazard spotting, investigations, they are all rolled together in a quarterly check prize for sites as well. And I think just having all the information on the platform helps us to reach a good decision about who's a worthy candidate for that every quarter as well.
Yeah, and that's brilliant, and it's interesting that you mentioned that, because literally just the last session, one of our customers that we just onboarded this year in August, and already now they've seen that culture of that friendly competitiveness between line managers and team leaders in terms of hazard spotting, observation spotting, and they have also that you mentioned kudos as opposed to the prize itself, that it's more that recognition piece, and they've said they've seen that already, and their hazard spots have gone from 0 to over 350 in a very short space of time, which is exceptional for them. So yeah, there's a lot of
audit reports. The audit reports that are generated as well, they're pretty detailed, and you do get come back challenge, and that's verified why they might even in that mark. But again, everybody's audit scores are there on the system for every other site to see, and sites do look at how other sites are performing, and we discuss that as well at 6 weekly meetings. So I think in terms of the system, it just helps us bring all that data together so that we can present it, and that where there are actions and incidents that need to be taken care of, we could do that rapidly.
Brilliant. Yeah, really good. And just in terms of COVID, so Declan mentioned COVID there. How is COVID an impact on system usage? So you were saying that there was that drop off on hazard spotting. So was that was really the significant impact, was it, as a result of COVID, where you saw that increase in the number of incidents, and it was down to the fact that that drop off on the hazard spots?
Yeah, well, when we came back after the temporary shutdown, there was definitely people were just really worried about coming back to what they didn't know what they were coming back to, because they're coming into England and Scotland, and they were leaving their homes in Ireland, and they're coming over, and they're sort of saying, I'm going into like a war zone here with COVID, and I don't know what's going to happen. And people were taking their eye off the ball, and we were having board meetings basically saying, at the end of the day, the crux of our work is construction. It's a risky business, and people do get hurt. So that's what basically happened. We could see that we could share the graph if we had it, but the hazard spotting basically went down to 0 for those 5 weeks. And I think, Kerry, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, it was something like 349 or 351 hazard spots in the month of April or something. So, but like when we should be up around 3,000. So people were coming back really slowly, and things were happening. Things were happening that like should never happen. McAleer Rushe, you know, and Kerry and Cahill, you know, Kerry's other health and safety manager, they would be saying to me, "Oh, we've just been unlucky." But we can't really come around and say to a judge we've been unlucky. So we had a reboot, and we've gone now, and we've basically says like as Kerry was saying there earlier, we can't turn around and say now some sites get 97%. Because I know in my heart of hearts that they didn't deserve 97%, but it's down to the auditor he's going, it's not too bad, I'll give it 97%. So now we've gone into the detail now and said, to give it over 90, must be the criteria that you meet, 80, 70, 60. And it's all about accountability. And we're centering our new accountability and focus on project managers around accountability and around engage to say, if every site manager isn't doing a hazard spot, well then you can't score 100 because you're taking 5% off because not everybody's doing a hazard spot. So it's a bit of a carrot and stick approach. It's basically getting everybody out doing a hazard spot and preventing accidents and getting everybody back into it. And then in another 6 months we'll maybe review it whenever things have sort of come back to what they should have been, and we'll look at it again. But we definitely need to take action after COVID.
No, brilliant. Just have a question that's kind of related in some way to those points. So we have Kenny here, and what would you guys? So this be a question to each of you. What would you do? If management refuses to implement changes. So I suppose if you think back to Declan when you were looking to get a software solution in place. And if the management team, the board, refused to, make those changes to implement the software or to adopt the software, what would that conversation be like now, knowing what you know now?
Look, I'm just very lucky, and myself and Kerry are lucky, that we work for McAleer Rushe and we don't have a budget. If we need something in the shack department, we go and get it. There's no questions asked. Within reason, we're not just going out and buying like a proprietary system just for the sake of buying it and saying like, oh, we need this, and then we never use it. So there's a lot of questions asked. There's a lot of meetings over this. It wasn't just we're just going to buy this and that's it. There were a lot of questions. There was a lot of tension. There was a lot of grinding the teeth and stuff, and sort of saying, no, we don't need this. And but it's a case of sticking at it, Kenny. Keep having the argument. Just use us as an example to say we're a benchmark to say, this is how we improved our culture, and it's all about improving your culture. It's a 10-year thing for me here at this stage. It just doesn't happen overnight, and it comes in waves. It's basically at the start you're bringing in a new system, and it's definitely like a stick approach, and you must use it. You must use it. Then people start using it. Then you bring in the carrot and say, yeah, we're going to incentivize this. Then it plateaus, and then you have to go back to the stick approach. So it's carrot, stick. Yeah. But you need to have the conversation and just as use us as an example, but not every organization is going to have an open door where they'll just say, yeah, here, we'll take that in. Some organizations are going to need more persuasion than others, but if your company is really serious about improving culture, they definitely need to drive something on like this here. You need something to move it up to the next level. It depends what size the company is or whatever. Not everybody's going to get behind it, and it's all about personalities as well. But we're lucky where McAleer Rushe are basically, they're poking me in the chest and they're saying, right, you've got this. What are you going to do next? Where are you going to go next? How are you going to improve us even more? And it's a constant daily thing or weekly thing saying, how can we improve even further? So Kenny, don't give up. Keep it going, and I'll be happy to help you in the persuasion stakes.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. And again, we find out more and more that it's trying to assist to make the business case for the software. And I think you mentioned it earlier as well, that you've seen that growth in business over the last few months, based on the fact that those blue chip companies are requiring you to give that health and safety information, and you have that to hand. So you're generating income, new business from that, which is brilliant. Anything from your point of view, Kerry, just in terms of giving guidance to Kenny?
Yeah, I think just going back to my previous employer, they had a number of systems, none of which were bespoke health and safety management systems. They had a system to record frontline activity, and that's still in use now, I believe, in HSE, and a system that I think originally was designed for the sale and maintenance of washing machines, and a system that wasn't fit for purpose at all. Instead of raising a case, you raised a service order, and then it was clunky, it didn't work, and had also had no capability to upload documents, so therefore you had to save everything in a separate trim, and it took up a lot of time. A lot of information that was put in there was lost forever. As far as searching went, it just didn't work at all. So I think if you're trying to promote and encourage senior management to take a system like Effective Software on, you have to really, probably drive home the benefits. I mean, Engage was a revelation for me when I came to McAleer Rushe, because everything was in the one place. You could do your accidents, audits, hazard spotting, everything from the same platform, and you weren't having to continually shift between different things. So it's huge for time saving, and I think as well, from, as I said before, a safety point of view and a regulatory point of view, if you get a visit from an HSE inspector or an HSE inspector, that if you have all this information here that you're able to sort of produce quickly, then it does make a huge difference and gives a really, really good impression of the organisation.
Yeah.
So I think that would be my advice, that there may be a number of different systems, and yeah, there is obviously going to be a cost outlay, but the cost benefits in the long run may outweigh that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, maybe something to add to that as well would be that, involve other stakeholders in the business, like get HR involved, get IT involved. It doesn't have to be just a health and safety project to implement a software system like this. You can spread the workload, spread the cost over various departments within the business as well. And that's something that we've heard back from various customers. Something that you mentioned, Declan, that the board are pushing you to go to the next level. So, what is the next level? What's the next step for McAleer Rushe with technology?
Well, you know that we're trying at the minute to get subcontractors involved to get that rolled out. If we got that rolled out to subcontractor supervisors, I think that can only be a good thing as well for them to actually go down the road of doing hazard spots, because they're an extra set of eyes for us. And by all means, they can come out and have a go at us and say, "Oh, we don't like what the toilets, or something else could be changed," or that's something that we can do with Engage, and we can do that with yourselves. And then obviously that we've spoken about not, but they're pushing us on and saying, "What can you bring to us? What's different?" So that we've spoken to you about before as well. So we're waiting on you to come up with, like, you're going to tell us. But it's a constant thing with McAleer Rushe. You just can't stop. When 45,001 came out, I basically said, like this, we're doing this already, so we have to have it. And we're one of the few companies in the world to get it, because I knew that I was going to be asked, "Have we got 45,001?"
Yeah.
So by the June of 2018, we had it. It was done. It was dusted, and then we got it, and we never even put it in the press to say we're one of the first companies in the world. It was like 3-4 months later saying, "Right, what are you going to do next?" It's constant.
Yeah, and that's good. Like, that demonstrates a really strong culture. A continuous improvement piece, is really, really strong. Yeah, no, that's great, and I'm sure Kerry, coming into an organisation like that, it certainly makes, the job of being a health and safety advisor within the company that little bit easier. It's not an easy job at the best of times, but it's certainly.
Yeah, it's been a very steep learning curve. It has, and jumping the fence, you see things from an entirely different perspective. And I honestly think now that if I was ever, not that I'm planning to go back to HSE, I would be a much better inspector now, because I think as an inspector before, you didn't really understand fully all the nuts and bolts of a fully operational health and management system.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I obviously wasn't in McAleer Rushe before we got the software, but now it does play a central role in keeping the Think Smart system running smoothly.
Yeah, no, very good, very good. And I suppose that's, one of the things, and Declan, you identified it there, that, you talked to us and you had that conversation with me going back a number of weeks ago about going to the next level. And that's something that, through business reviews with our customers, and, having these sort of interactions, virtual events and, meeting with customers to get that feedback. But we also want, to be involved in your business plan for next year. So, is there something on our roadmap that will help you guys to achieve your targets for next year? And is there something that we need to bring forward or check or change, and whether it's as a result of 45,001 or, that continuous drive to get to the next level. You're tendering for bigger contracts, and there's additional requirements that need to be met. So that sort of partnership is what we're all about as well.
Yeah, totally. And we'll work with you, you work with us, and we're asked by a client who we've been facing for maybe 2 years, and we've gone through hoops and hoops and hoops, and they're asking us questions that we have never been asked before, and they're saying what 3 things are going to bring us into the top decile in their framework. So we're for health and safety, for nothing else, just for health and safety. We're being asked questions by clients we've never been asked before. So we work with massive names in the business, but going to the next level is we're being asked, our managing director will be asking me, he'll be saying, where are we going next? Where are we, he'll sit down with me in the next week or two and he'll say, right, 2020 has been a very strange year. We set out, we were going to do X, Y, and Z. We were going to have an occupational health massive launch and all that there in February, and then the next thing was closed.
Yeah.
So we're going to do that, and that never got off the ground, Kerry, at all. Do you remember what we're going to do? So it's been a strange year, but Martin McGee, the managing director, he'll have the same conversation with me in the next fortnight, and he'll say, right, it's been a strange year, but where are we going next year? So we'll be going with you in parallel, saying, right, Billy, what can affect us software? Engage do for us, going into 2021 and beyond.
Yeah, we're still getting used to the change from effective software to Engage as well. So every so often, I do the same thing.
We prompt there in the comments thing on the right hand side was Engage EHS tag, and that was very settling. So that really put me at rest,
Yeah, there's some great questions there coming through, and it's there's a lot of people that struggle to get that buy-in that Kenny identified, and also as well it's when if you're lucky enough to get a system in place, is bringing it to the next level and continue to bring it to the next level. I don't think no matter what system you have, you can't sit back on your laurels. You have to continue to drive for that improvement. And that communication piece that you guys have at that senior management level, at that board level, that's really important. And is that something that has developed over the last few years as a result of the software, or has that always been there? And maybe it's just the communication now is probably that bit easier now.
No, the communication thing and the inclusion, that's always been there, and we the difference going back about 5-6 years, we were all like, I was head of health and safety, and there was contracts managers, and our managing director, he was basically being put under pressure by the CEO to say you need to change your structure. So I was made director of health and safety and environmental quality. Then the contracts managers, the senior ones, were made contracts directors, and so now we've got like a board, and that even though it was informally, it was not a board like back 2010. It was still the same 10, 11, 12 people sitting around the table, still having very, very frank conversations. Like, we used to meet at like 6:30 on a Wednesday evening in London, in the London office, and it could go on to maybe 10:30 at night, and it was like, it wasn't as easy going as it is now, because it was just very, very frank, very open, and the culture was there back in 2010, and things weren't going right, and people weren't buying into it. And then just like, there's no easy win with this, Kenny, and anybody out there asking about culture. There's no easy win. You need to just keep chipping away at it, keep going, and some days you'll get a massive win, some days you won't. Other days you'll go back 2 steps, but then a couple of months later you'll get something unexpected, and you just go, that was brilliant. That was I can't believe that happened. So it builds up and it builds up and it builds up. It just doesn't happen overnight, but you need to just keep chipping away at it.
Yeah, and I think. Sorry, Kerry, go ahead.
Sorry. Our annual management review, I think it was last year, there was a session actually just to run through Engage for some of the management board, because they hear us talking about effective software and Engage, but without much of a real understanding about what we can do with it. So there was a demonstration, and I think that's helpful as well, just to be able to communicate that to the senior level as well, and show them exactly what benefits can be brought from it.
Yeah, and that's good as well, because like the software is continually changing. So that having a regular session with senior management, is good, because there's always going to be something new coming along in the platform, or there's something they want maybe to see in the platform. So it's that two-way piece. But once everybody's informed, it makes it easier. So it's good. And just I suppose in terms of that whole piece of encouraging the safety culture and the ownership, that's something that you guys have really focused on. Have you seen that through the software that being able to assign ownership and giving the site managers that ownership is easier? Has that evolved now that the guys can self-serve through the software and kind of manage their area with that high-level supervision then from yourselves?
Kerry, I'll let you answer that one.
Yeah, I mean, sort of just going back to sort of site visit reports and audit reports, I mean, we sort of operate a system by which, before you leave site that day, you should sit down and you should thoroughly talk about the issues with the site management team, so that there are no surprises when this report comes back and there are, half a dozen actions against their name that have big red high priority and that they need to close out within the next 48 hours. But yeah, I mean, I think, as long as that conversation's had, you can assign those actions and you can, leave site with confidence that, that will arrive in their inbox as soon as you send it, and then they will be given that amount of time to close it out. I do go back into sites a couple of days later, make sure that they have been closed out, and that's something that's audited every week by the health and safety officers on site. But we also see people on site just assigning actions to other people. They notice something is wrong, and they report a hazard, and on the bottom of that they can assign an action to the site, and the site manager should be keeping an overall control of that every week. So at senior level, you only really need to step in or make comment if you see that these things aren't being actioned and closed out.
That's good, because that's giving you guys the freedom then to manage, at that higher level, setting policy and driving that culture, as opposed to doing the day-to-day stuff, chasing people.
Yeah, and we've just redrafted our audit. It went live yesterday with a focus on hazard spotting and a focus on, acknowledgement and closing out. And and now they're going to lose a significant amount of marks if they don't have one hazard spot per day per site member, not 5 a week. They can't do 5 on a Monday and then none for the rest of the day. It has to be at least one per day. And again, we can run reports from the system, see exactly who's doing their bit and who's not.
But again, that comes from the top. We came back from COVID, and we had a board meeting. Obviously, it was on Teams, but we had a board meeting, and it was basically, I was saying, look, I'm worried about where we're going with this, and the trend is it needs to be arrested, it needs to be stopped. So we spoke about it, and I said, previously, a bad audit, maybe around about 75, 76, that was sort of accepted, and it wasn't spoken about. But it was a bad audit, whereas our sites were scoring up around 90, 95. So we said, look, something needs to happen whenever a bad audit happens. The site manager, the project manager, the director, they need to speak about this. They need to be held accountable. So we've gone, and with the board's backing, they said, go and change it. And that's why we changed it yesterday. So it's about accountability. It's about a project manager not signing off a key piece of our documentation on a weekly basis called duty chart review. And they're signing that off basically to say that they're happy with everything on site, that there's 30 or 40 duties, and everybody's signing off to say that they've done them. So they're basically putting their signature at the bottom to say, we're happy with this, we accept this, we're okay that everything's happened. But then Kerry and Cahill are doing a weekly report for me and saying, site manager in Dublin has done one hazard spot this week, and the project manager signed that off to say he's happy with that. So I flipped it on his head and said, no, this doesn't happen anymore. So we focus on the duty chart review, focus on the hazard spot, and we focus on a few other aspects that we've never focused on before, but they're key aspects. And that's why we said about accountability. So our next SHAC meeting is in, it would normally be held in Europa in Belfast, but it's the 26th of November, I think it is, Kerry. And that's when we're going to see the first input of these results from the audits. We'll discuss them, and we'll see, scores what, because we've made it harder for people. So, and then that's the poor scores will be, they'll have to discuss that, and they'll have to tell us why that happened, and they'll be held accountable. So it works both ways. Comes back to the carrot, it comes back to the stick. So
yeah, no, very good. I'd be interested to see the outputs from that as well. And because I know you've attended a few other customer workshops and given insight. And I think I've used your example of the 26,000 hazard spots, in a short space of time as well. And a lot of people, when they hear that, are kind of wondering. And it's actually, there's a question here as well. How do you deal with so many hazards coming through? And I think you kind of partly answered that in terms of it generates all those reports automatically. But it's also, I suppose, reviewing them and, how do you manage that volume, I suppose, is the question, really.
We've got a full-time health and safety person on every site. So they're tasked with going through those hazard spots and stuff towards the end of the week. And then Kerry and Cahill provide a report and basically say, these are the issues, this is what's been raised this week. I've always said from the start that if everybody was doing one hazard spot per day through Engage, the amount of numbers that we have in site, it should be over 3,500 hazards per month. If you look at that, my maths, that would be 42,000 hazard spots a year. So you say that we did 26,000, we're actually 16,000 off our target. So, but to keep on top of that, you can get your notifications coming through on the phone, and you can have a quick look at them, and you maybe get 10 or 20 through in 20 minutes, half an hour, because they're coming through live.
Yeah.
You like being able to look down the phone and say, right, such and such picked up, all right, that's a good one there. Oh, see what's happening over in Liverpool, or that's happening in Edinburgh, or that's happening in London. But you haven't turned on my notifications since I went to the Rugby World Cup in Japan. So I've not years notifications then. So, but Kerry and Carl,
special request. Kerry. Declan was heading off to the World Cup to enjoy himself, and he asked me to make sure he didn't get any notifications while he was away.
Yeah.
That was a year ago. I emailed you from Dublin City or Dublin Airport that time, and I haven't got them turned on since.
Well, you still get them coming through.
Yeah. Kerry and Cahill, like, they'll still get them and send them up to me. Like, I still see them coming through. So some very good ones, like, but again, when it comes to, like, we've asked the project managers as well to go through them for their site at the end of the week, and they have to pick out the best ones and send them to us to say they want them to be considered for the hazard spot prize at the end of the month. And so there's some excellent stuff coming through, and another good thing about it is there's some chaps that that some girls and fellas maybe not so good English. A couple of Sri Lankan lads have been with us for years. They're very shy. They're really, really good engineers, brilliant engineers, but really shy about going out and doing stuff. But now they don't have to write it down. That they just go to the phone, take a picture of it, make a few words, get it put right, and then send it on. So it's inclusive and it's collaborative for everybody.
Yeah, that's brilliant. It's actually just on that as well that the mobile app does support multilingual, so that's something that we can look at with you as well to get that set up. But it's interesting that dealing with that element of it as well, where maybe people are afraid to write down for whatever reason, but being able to take a photograph and select a few drop downs or tick boxes makes it a lot easier and, as you say, more inclusive as well. So yeah, that's really good. Just, I suppose, before we wrap up, because I'm conscious of the time, and I know you guys have your day job to do as well. But just, it was something that you touched on, Kerry. Actually, it was in relation to, there's always an outlier within any business that just won't adopt change. And you mentioned that you're nearly at the point now where it's kind of, this guy is still reporting stuff on paper and you're going to leave him off. Is there anything that you think can be done, from either a technology point of view, maybe on our side, or, anything else maybe that you can think of that might make that difference to get that sort of person on board?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think with the particular individual I'm thinking about, he's just not interested in doing it. It still is done. Sorry?
I know the individual who you're talking about.
Yeah. It still is done because he will write them down and then he will give them to the health and safety officer who will log them for him. So it's still done. But yeah, I don't personally think we're going to change this individual's point of view now, but he is very much an outlier. And I think that I've certainly talked to guys that have been with the organisation for a number of years and who have been quite resistant to IT and not just with Engage, but for another system that we use for quality inspections, turned around and said a few months ago, I don't know how we did this before now, because, having resisted the change, now they've embraced it and see that, that this is a much easier way to do things. But I think, there's some people who are, willing to try and other people who just probably aren't.
And that's really only one person, Kerry, at this stage, and it's just not going to change, Billy. No matter what you did, it just wouldn't do it for him. So, his mobile phone, basically, you have to plug it into the wall and use this thing, ring it.
He's on the dial. And again, it's always something we're looking at as well. It's that we want to get that full engagement, that inclusiveness, in terms of using the system, and we're continually looking at ways to make it easier for people, because you can have all the best reporting systems in the world, generating all sorts of fancy graphs, but unless you have people engaged with the system, using it, you're not going to be able to generate any sort of information unless you get the data coming through, from the ground. It's really brilliant. Again, I really want to thank you guys for your time today. It's been absolutely fantastic. I think we've gone through most of the questions there as we went through it. I don't know, is there anything else you guys can think of that you want to throw in? Or, I think we've covered all sides of this topic, I think, fairly comprehensively.
Yeah, look, if there's anybody out there who wants to talk to me, or carry after this, I'm happy to give them our numbers, because, we are lucky that we're pushed an open door, that they are pushing us on, and they're challenging us to say what's next. That I know full well that does not happen in every organization, because I've been there once before with one organization. You just wouldn't get this system through there. But yeah, look, you just need to keep chipping away and keep going, and say the cost, the benefits are totally going to outweigh the cost. So you'll actually start winning work because of the back of it. So
yeah, I think you're right. I think it's that persistence, not to give up. Sometimes you may feel as if you're banging your head against the wall, but and I appreciate and your help there as well. So that's really good. Okay, well, guys, I suppose before we wrap up, just to cover off some of the things that we talked about at the start. So the recordings of the session. So once this session ends, you'll be able to access the recording from the portal. But as I mentioned at the start, we will also send out emails to everybody who is registered. Also, as well, the CS product and sales team are available in the booths if anyone wants to book in a meeting to talk further on either this topic or any other topic that we've covered both yesterday and today. Please feel free. And finally, just a reminder on the two charities that we're supporting these last 2 days. So the NHS Trust in the UK and St. James's Hospital here in Dublin. So again, please, any size donation will be much appreciated by both those organisations. And just want to, again, thank you both for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure, as always, speaking to you. And hopefully we'll meet soon, maybe face-to-face as opposed to virtually. But, any sort of meeting these days is good.
Yeah, no problem. It's a pleasure as always, Billy, and thanks again.
No, thank you. And have a good day. And thanks to everybody who was part of this session.